The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was a spectacle of arrogance. Towering crystalline spires shimmered above delegates, their robes flowing with artificial gravitas. These were the rulers of empires that had stretched across the stars for millennia, masters of warp drives, plasma lances, and shield harmonics. They prided themselves on having moved past crude warfare ages ago. And then, humanity walked in. The human delegation was small, almost laughable compared to the vast entourages of other species. No exotic fabrics, no glowing insignias, just sharp uniforms and tired eyes. When their engineers unveiled blueprints for railguns, the chamber erupted in derisive laughter. Projectiles? Sneered a reptilian chancellor, his voice dripping with amusement. Do you expect to frighten fleets with rocks hurled at high speed? Another delegate waved a jeweled hand. Even primitive shields deflect kinetic slugs. Your weapons are outdated before the first shot is fired. The mocking chorus swelled, but the humans didn't flinch. Their lead envoy simply adjusted his jacket and replied with calm certainty, "You've forgotten what raw velocity can do." "We haven't." The council dismissed them as fools chasing relics of a savage past. To them, railguns were symbols of desperation, proof that Earth lacked the sophistication to wield true galactic power. They assumed humans would either submit or vanish quietly into irrelevance. But beneath the quiet stares of the delegation lay a different truth. Railguns weren't desperation. They were bait. Humanity had learned long ago that arrogance was the deadliest blind spot. If the galaxy wanted to underestimate them, so be it. Behind closed doors, the council's laughter turned into scheming. Reports claimed humans were building fleets outfitted with these primitive cannons, and alien admirals clamored for a chance to test their strength against Earth's toys. Orders were given: send a fleet to the Sol border, crush their defenses, and prove to every world that humans had no place at the galactic table. The stage was set. The Council saw it as a routine display of dominance. Humanity saw it as the perfect trap. What the galaxy didn't realize was that railguns were just the beginning. The Council's demonstration fleet entered the Sol frontier with fanfare. 50 warships, each bristling with plasma cannons and shield arrays, cruised toward human space as if on parade. Their commanders expected an easy mission: scatter a few colonies, cripple some outdated vessels, and return home with victory parades awaiting. The broadcast sent across the stars painted it as a spectacle. Observe how swiftly humanity's arrogance is silenced. What they found instead was silence. No escorts rushed out to meet them. No desperate calls for surrender echoed through the void. Human channels remained eerily quiet, as though the species had vanished. Then, just beyond Neptune's orbit, the trap snapped shut. The first railgun salvo came without warning. From hidden platforms buried in ice and orbital rocks, tungsten rods screamed through space at unimaginable velocities. One Council cruiser's shields flared for half a second, then collapsed entirely as the projectile tore straight through its core. The ship split in two, burning debris scattering across the stars. Panic erupted on the command bridges. Impossible. Shields should disperse kinetics. Admirals shouted orders, but the railgun fire only intensified. Human warships surged out from the dark, sleek and unadorned, their guns thundering in perfect synchrony. Every shot was precise, every strike devastating. Council vessels tried to retaliate with plasma storms, yet human ships darted with brutal efficiency, trading armor for positioning. Where aliens relied on centuries-old doctrines of shield harmonics and energy lances, humanity fought with raw, unrelenting force. Within minutes, the proud demonstration fleet was reduced to wreckage. Flagships detonated as railgun slugs pierced reactor cores. Frigates spun helplessly, shredded before they could even align targeting systems. The last surviving cruiser, limping and broken, attempted to flee, only to be cut down by a final salvo that punched straight through its engines. The battle was over before most of the galaxy even realized it had begun. News of the disaster raced through the stars. The Council had sent a fleet to swat primitive humans. Instead, they had delivered their warriors into a slaughterhouse. For the first time in living memory, an Empire fleet had been obliterated in open combat. And still, the humans did not gloat. Their broadcasts carried only one chilling message. You thought our weapons were outdated. Now you know they work. The annihilation of the demonstration fleet sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Worlds that had once scoffed at humanity now whispered of their ferocity. The Council, however, could not allow fear to spread unchecked. To admit weakness was unthinkable. Their response had to be swift, overwhelming, and absolute. So they gathered the Judicator Armada. Hundreds of warships assembled, battlecruisers larger than cities, carriers teeming with drone swarms, dreadnoughts said to be indestructible. It was not merely a fleet. It was the Council's pride, forged across centuries to crush rebellion wherever it dared spark. This armada would not merely punish Earth. It would erase humanity's name from history. Admirals boasted openly. We will sweep their little slingshots into the void, one declared. Another sneered, this is no war, only pest control. Their arrogance was broadcast across the stars, a performance meant to restore faith in Council supremacy. When the Judicator Armada crossed into human space, they found resistance waiting. Not scattered militias, but organized fleets bristling with railguns. The humans fought savagely, their slugs ripping holes through even the largest warships. But numbers began to tell. Council plasma storms bathed the battlefield in burning light. Human destroyers melted under sustained fire. Colonies shuddered as orbital bombardments rained down. Step by step, the Council pressed forward, convinced victory was near. To many watching, it seemed humanity had reached its limit. Then the impossible happened. In the chaos, entire human ships vanished from scanners, only to reappear inside Council formations. One moment, a dreadnought prepared to fire. The next, a human cruiser materialized point-blank, railguns thundering. Hulls ruptured, reactors ignited, and fleets spiraled into disarray. This was no stealth system, no cloaking trick. It was something far worse. Teleportation. The Council's doctrines, polished over millennia, unraveled instantly. Their formations shattered as ships blinked into existence where no defense could cover. Admirals screamed in disbelief. How could a primitive species leapfrog galactic science by centuries? The tide turned in hours. Where once the humans had fought tooth and nail to survive, now they hunted. Railguns struck from impossible angles, teleporting frigates gutted carriers, and the indestructible dreadnoughts burned like kindling. The Council had come to erase humanity. Instead, they had awakened a terror they could not comprehend. And for the first time, whispers spread not of human weakness, but of human inevitability. The Council had expected compliance or, at worst, a bloody but manageable rebellion. What they received was something entirely different: systematic humiliation. Within weeks, entire fleets that had once been symbols of invincibility were annihilated by humans striking from impossible angles. The galaxy's whispers grew louder. The humans are unstoppable. The Judicator Armada, once the pride of the Council, disintegrated in orbit around key human colonies. Leaders struggled to maintain communication, but the humans' combination of railguns and teleportation technology rendered conventional tactics obsolete. Every strategic move the Council made was countered before it could take effect. Ships blinked into enemy formations, delivering devastating volleys before vanishing again. Admiral reports devolved into frantic scribbles. They move faster than thought. They anticipate everything. Retreat impossible. The political ramifications were immediate. Councillors bickered openly in emergency sessions, factions forming for the first time in centuries. Some urged negotiation, pleading with other species to mediate, while hardliners insisted on crushing the humans at all costs. Divisions widened as colonies once loyal to the Council began quietly sending envoys to humanity, seeking alliance or protection. Meanwhile, humans continued their advance with precision and wit. Battlefields were littered with scorched Council vessels, but human fleets communicated with unexpected levity. Engineers joked over comms about teleporting PK boom strikes, while captains sent sardonic messages to fleeing enemy fleets. Did you bring a map, or just hope? This combination of brutal efficiency and human irreverence unnerved the galaxy. Where alien species were bound by millennia of protocol and rigid hierarchy, humanity relied on creativity, adaptability, and a refusal to bow to intimidation. Civilizations watching from afar began to whisper. Perhaps the Council's centuries of dominance were fragile, a house built on fear and arrogance. By the time human forces reached the outer systems of Council space, rumors had spread faster than ships ever could. Entire sectors began surrendering without a fight, declaring allegiance to humanity as the new guarantors of order and protection. The once monolithic empire showed cracks that could no longer be ignored. The Council, humiliated and cornered, realized a truth it had never faced before. They had underestimated humans. Railguns were only the opening gambit. Teleporters were the hammer. And the galaxy was only beginning to understand the full scope of human ingenuity and resolve. The countdown to the final retribution had begun. The galaxy had never witnessed anything like it. Humanity's fleets, honed by months of relentless conflict, now advanced toward the heart of the Council's dominion. Every human ship carried the scars of prior battles, yet each gleamed with lethal purpose. Railguns throbbed with energy, teleporters hummed with deadly precision, and the minds behind them were sharper than any counselor had ever imagined. As the human armada approached Council Prime, the Empire's capital world, alarms blared across orbital stations. This planet had been considered impregnable, shielded by centuries of technology and guarded by the most powerful warships ever constructed. Yet, before the Council could coordinate a defense, the humans struck. Teleportation warships blinked across the void, appearing inside orbital rings and tearing apart dreadnoughts before alien crews could react. Railgun salvos punched through planetary shields like needles through cloth. Defensive turrets melted under concentrated fire. One by one, Council fleets, symbols of centuries-long dominance, crumbled. Command bridges erupted in flames, and admirals' cries were lost in the chaos. On the planetary surface, human boarding teams infiltrated the Council's grand palaces. For the first time, the rulers who had dictated the galaxy's fate were forced to witness the consequences of their arrogance firsthand. They saw their fleets destroyed, cities burning, and the galaxy's eyes turning from fear to awe at the ingenuity of mankind. Yet humanity did not seek total conquest. Instead, their final act was justice. Surviving counselors were brought before tribunals broadcast across the stars. Crimes of tyranny, oppression, and cowardice were exposed. Planets once enslaved were liberated, and former enemies began seeking alliance, recognizing the humans not merely as warriors but as architects of a new order. The last message was broadcast from the flagship UNS Vanguard, a simple declaration that echoed through the void. Railguns came first. Teleporters came later. What destroyed your glory was your arrogance. Humanity survives. Humanity prevails. And those who mocked us will remember why. The Council collapsed, its empire fragmented. Borders were redrawn, alliances formed, and human space became a beacon of both power and justice. The galaxy had learned an indelible truth. Humans were not merely another species to be mocked. They were a force to be reckoned with, capable of reshaping the stars themselves. Where once arrogance had ruled, now human ingenuity and resilience reigned. And the galaxy would never forget it.